It's episode 72 of the Improv London podcast. I'm your host, Stuart Moses, and this week's guest is Jonah Fazel.
Hello! It is me, Jonah Fazel.
Hello.
This week's host. No, this week's guest.
Oh, it's a takeover.
What's
He's already taking over. I've already, regular listeners will know that I am not very good at answering questions. Some people might say I'm not very good at asking questions, but that's by and by.
Why would you say that was, though?
I don't know. Proving my own point. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me on.
And thank you for being here is perhaps the correct thing, but we could just end up spinning that out for quite a long time. Anyway, thank you for being here. We are sitting in the nursery theatre, the actual theatre of the nursery.
Yes, we are.
This is very exciting.
Yeah, and we're on, even though the theatre's been open since sort of early summer, we are on opening week. Strangely, how does that work? Time travel.
I don't know.
Not only did we open the first kind of purpose-built London Improv Theatre, but we also invented time travel to do it. Yeah. So, but I thought that for some reason we're putting the improv thing first in the press release. I think the time travel...
You're very much burying the lead there, I feel.
Yeah, exactly.
Put the time travel on the second page, which no one's going to read anyway.
That's because Jules Munns decided not to kill Hitler. And we don't want to talk about it.
Well, I will have to invite Jules on and delve very much into that side of things.
I feel it's the sort of thing he would do.
I'm sure he had very good reasons. Well, yes, and not only are we in the opening week of the nursery, despite the fact the nursery's been open for a while, although I might want to say that again because I didn't really come out very probably.
Should I clarify what I meant by that? Yeah, so we're having a gala opening at the weekend, a red carpet gala opening.
Which by the time this comes out will have happened.
So everyone can look back and go, oh yes, they did, and it will almost be like time travel.
Yes. Almost,
yeah.
And before that, the day before that, there's Thursday Night Lights.
Oh yes, Thursday Night Lights is back. Yeah, I love TNL. That's so super exciting to get back into that as well. It's a great formula. We really love it. And what's really heartening is that everybody else seems to love it as well. I have met lots of people who have no idea that I'm involved in it or that Jules and I set it up. They've been endlessly complimentary, and it's really, really nice to have a thing like, we've created a nice little sort of safe space. I think all of the jams in London are absolutely excellent. I've had amazing fun times everywhere that I've been. Shout out to Duck Duck Goose, oop oop, particularly. Is that how you do a shout out, isn't it?
I believe that is.
Yeah. Yeah. I love those guys. I love all the jams. We just thought that, hey, let's try. How can we do something that adds even more value to a sort of jam experience? And the sort of thing, we didn't want to break a box that didn't need breaking. I think jams generally work, and people know what to expect. I think there's sort of formula of the hosts kind of being really uber kind of friendly and welcoming, and the thing that we do with the warm-up as well at the beginning, I think probably goes a long way towards answering why people are so fond of it. I quite enjoy jams, but I have heard millions... No, I've not met millions of people. I have lots of people saying, it's just a bit tough when you've got to go out with people you don't know and you haven't met them, and the first time you're on stage with them is the first time you meet them. And then that's one side of the coin. The other side is like, the first time I meet somebody is when I was on stage with them. And there are people who I now do improv with and are very close friends of mine who it has occurred to me, and I probably imagine the same is true of you. It's like, do you know what? Where did we meet? We met on stage. I played an old lady and you played a dog. That's how I remember you. Yeah, so I think that's great to have people meet each other and connect for at least sort of 20 minutes, half an hour, and then also structuring the jams a little bit so that there's an element of randomness as well, but that the hosts of the night can kind of steer it and allow people who come again and again and again. We kind of get a sense now of what they like doing and where the edges of things that make them comfortable are, and where the edges of things that actually wouldn't it be fun to push them a little bit in this direction. And so, yeah, I think we like to feel that it's sort of part workshop, part jam, and a show as well. Yes, that's really nice.
So for those that haven't been along, the formula is has the formula evolved? Did you get it right from the start? That's what I'm asking. And are there going to be any changes to this season?
We got it right exactly first time. No, we didn't. Yeah. Well, we had the benefit of time travel, so
makes things a lot easier. Some things a lot harder, but some improv a lot easier.
Exactly.
Weirdly.
But because we're improvisers, we did the Bill and Ted version of time travel, where I said, "I'm just going to leave a key," and then the key was there.
Spoilers.
Yeah. Actually, we have changed it slightly, or whoever, all of us, we've changed it. So what I was really keen to ensure when we started was that jammers felt like their jam, their little kind of niche of the show, was just as important as an act that was coming on. I will never use the word headline act or anything like that, no matter what kind of part in the lineup you are in. But over time, it's felt like wouldn't it be nice to give even more to the people who have come here to jam, even more to the people that are either new to the nursery or new to improv. So formerly we had 3 acts and 3 jam sessions, and they almost always ran over. And I think the last thing you want is to get to the end of the night when you're doing this sort of high energy, super fun stuff, and people are kind of clock watching. So I've sort of reduced it to 2 acts and still 3 jams, and that just means everything has a bit more space. There's more breathing space, there's more space for things like the concept jam, which is something that we do that I don't think anybody else does. For good reasons, perhaps. Space like things for the concept jam, and also the long form jam to kind of have the time that they need to be the things that they are.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. For the listeners who haven't yet been to, I've underlined the word "yet" in my speech there to TNL. The concept jam is effectively, it's lots and lots of scenes. Your name's drawn out of the hat pretty much like it is in any other kind of jam scenario. Only there's a sort of bonkers sort of artifice that we put over the top of it. Some of my favourite one, and so we get you to play within the sort of a world that we're defining. My favourite things that we've had in the concept jam, the other thing is that they're all secret as well, so nobody knows what's going to happen until they get up there, which I think is fun, and for me it reminds me of when I started going to improv classes a billion years ago, and no, I haven't been alive for a billion years. Yeah, I get in time right again. Yeah. And that's sort of like, oh my God, what's going to happen to me? I know it's going to be good. So what are some of the great ones we've had? Well, we've had, I blew up lots of different shaped balloons and had people shove them up their jumpers or their t-shirts or down the trousers and use the...
You have some people with capacious trousers.
Well, we've got some hip people coming these days, you see. So they have loose trousers.
Loose trousers are cool now.
Yeah, loose trousers
I'm glad I'm finally finding out what's cool.
Yeah, your Marks and Spencer loose fit. Like, people are going to be after this look.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. So we had people with balloons in their clothes, and they had to use the sort of the shape of their body to define a character.
Right.
We've had one which was completely in the dark. I think we also had one which was blindfolded with some helpers as well, so sort of not dissimilar. We've had one which was entirely in French.
Mais oui.
Yes. Bof. That's about as French as I can manage. But I should say about that one that there were only 3 people in the room who could speak French, and none of them were in the jam.
Really?
Yeah. So yeah, some really great ideas. That there's been like teen movies and things like that. And we've got lots and lots of hosts every week at TNL. So it's not always me. So we mix it up a lot, and there's a lot of sort of variety of things to expect. I like the danger element of improv a little bit as well, and that's quite nice to bring that back.
Yeah,
danger, but in a safe environment.
Marvelous. That's my favourite sort of danger.
Yeah. It's like running with knives, only the knife is made of jelly.
Ooh, a jelly knife.
Jelly knife. Yeah.
I'm supporting you in your jelly knife. Metaphor. I feel.
I feel supported.
I said that slightly sarcastically.
Only very, very, very slightly. Yeah.
Oh no! I'm with you.
Yeah, I like an extended metaphor that absolutely doesn't work.
Right. Come along, it's fun.
Yeah, come on.
Even if you hate jams, which I sort of do.
But you've been to TNL many times.
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing with jams, my advice, not that anyone's asked for it, is just keep doing them. And eventually they'll get less and less painful. And you might never really enjoy them, but you just won't hate them as much.
Yeah, from a performer's point of view, I suppose the difficulties can arise or sticky moments can arise when if you're very used to playing in one type of way or coming from one sort of school of improv or something like that, that it might be difficult entering into a scene with somebody who has a different viewpoint on how that scene should sort of be initiated. So I guess my advice would be remember not to pre-decide what you're going to do before you get on there. And it kind of reinforces that, like, the listening skill really is that you have to listen with your ears and your eyes, and sort of make sure you really know what's going on and what's happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I would add to that by saying, give yourself permission to do really, really terrible improv.
Oh yeah.
And no, it doesn't matter. Nobody's going to chuck you out of the improv scene for terrible improv.
No, yeah, I think the freedom to fail is really important. When I first started sort of taking classes in improv, which this is my 10th year as anniversary of doing improv, I'd done what was called improv in drama school years before then, but it wasn't until I took the first class like, oh, that wasn't improv at all. That was just making things up. There was a spontaneity shop.
Oh yeah.
Who are still around, I think. And at the end of each session or the beginning of each session, they would get everybody into a circle, with hand on heart and fist held up high, and you had to yell at each other or to yourself from your soul, "I suck and I love to fail." And for some reason, that really clicked with me, and I just really liked that. I think perhaps that's my personality. It speaks to my personality that I'm a perfectionist, and that the kind of I'm the type of person who won't do a thing for fear of it not being perfect or fear of failure. So the idea of failure is part of the journey, and that's part of the joy, and like unexpected pleasures come out of allowing yourself to fail and giving yourself the freedom. That was one of the things that sort of hooked me,
right?
And it was like a curtain lifting in my mind. Yeah.
So, when you're improvising, what would you say is your style?
Oh, what a horrible question. Yeah, no, that's fun.
Well,
it's good. Yeah.
Or maybe phrase it another way. If someone were to improvise with you in a jam, what could they do that would delight you?
I think I like to try and be really, really specific with the world building stuff. And I also absolutely love it. I think, the thing that would really make me happy is somebody endowing me, like quite an interesting, rich endowment that is really far out of the kind of stable of characters that you kind of walk onto stage with sometimes if you're on your own first. Because as much fun as you can have with the 20 odd things that you kind of know and are in your back pocket, like, oh yeah, this kind of character viewpoint or this kind of physicality, it's great to be endowed as a dog or old lady, for example. Yeah, I think that's super fun. New Choice has been a favourite game of mine for a long time. It's sort of stuck around as it's just really nice to kind of have somebody there to keep you honest and stop you from pre-planning. I'm probably quite a heady improviser. I am quite fond of wordplay. I am probably have a bit of a proclivity to make jokes, and you sort of slap yourself on the wrist a little bit when you're on the sidelines, going like, no, Jonah, just listen to what's happening. You don't need to walk on with that punchline. The scene won't be better or worse without it. Just leave it. Just to see what the scene needs rather than what your bloody joke is going to be. Chances are it will just be a cock joke.
So you mentioned you have a stable of characters.
Right.
Can you tell me about a couple of the residents of the stable?
Some of the horses, I suppose.
Yeah. You come on playing horses.
Yeah. Well, I think I have a sort of this pet theory that everybody has like these 3 or 4 or half a dozen accents that we do, that the accents that we heard growing up, that were different to our own, and that we just sort of found entertaining or amusing or interesting in some way. So my granddad, it was tough. I say it was a tough Yorkshireman like that, and so often, and it was totally no nonsense as well. That was a terrible version of it. Yeah, but I think that's probably. I quite like playing with voices and things like that as well. That's definitely one. They're probably all based on characters from my childhood. I've got quite a ridiculously animated family. One half of them are sort of Persian and extravagant, and the other half of them are very, very English and absolutely bonkers eccentric. And they all seem to have really bizarre voices.
Really?
And my mum has a ridiculous way of speaking as well. And when I've impersonated my mum to girlfriends, for example, they've gone, "Oh, don't be cruel. That's not what your mum sounds like." And then they've met and they've gone, "Oh, your impression is spot on." Yeah. Shout out to Mum. You are ridiculous. Thanks very much. What has she ever done for me, eh?
Well,
everything.
I didn't ask to be born.
Yeah. Literally everything. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably that's a rambling answer, but it's my pet theory is that our kind of go-to stable of characters are probably ones that we heard when we were little, and we kind of gravitate towards those.
So when you're finding your way into a character, is it voice rather than attitude or physicality that informs the character, or is it a mixture?
I think my go-to is a sort of 50-50 mix of physicality and voice. I think I would like it to be attitude a bit more, and that's the sort of the work that I try to do for myself when I'm sort of in classes and courses myself. But yeah, I think if we were to do a scene right now.
Not gonna happen.
Yeah. We'll walk onto this stage, and you were the downstage, and you were chopping carrots, obviously, because what else are you gonna do, right? If you were chopping carrots, I would probably come in with an odd, like something strange about my hands or my physical. Not strange, but I'd make a choice, like an angle that I'd hold my body or something like that. I sort of fairly rarely play close to myself, I'd say.
Interesting.
Yeah, I just find it easier to be creative and to find things that fit in the world that we're both creating.
Right.
If I'm not me,
Yeah.
But then maybe that's an actor thing as well, because we're both narcissists and we hate ourselves at the same time, like staring at our reflection, but going, "Oh, you absolute ugly bastard! You are a hideous human being, and your soul is black." That's no, just me. Okay.
Oh well, I'm not here to explore my.
Yeah.
Do you have that?
What the narcissism and self-loathing? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I think you have to be really careful with your ego. Do you find that one of the things that you find the most difficult to deal with in other people or with other people is an aspect of their personality that actually mirrors your own? Do you ever find that?
I've read that theory, and that if there's someone that really annoys you, then is it a reflection of something that you do? I don't know. I'm trying to think of people who annoy me. The names of who I'm not going to share on this podcast.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to think, well, do they represent aspects of my personality? I don't think so. I don't know.
Yeah. What is it for me? I think I fear being. I think possibly one of my greatest fears is feeling people thinking that I'm a hypocrite. That's probably one of my greatest fears. And the sort of second one is having an out of control ego as well. I think most of us could do with kind of checking our ego every now and then, but that's especially with performing and things like that. In the world in which we're in improvisation is growing and massive, and it's enormous. But there's no reason to get too excited about oneself, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a balance to be had.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. So what are you worried that people will think you're a hypocrite about?
God, this has gone deep, hasn't it, listeners? Yeah.
It's that well-known bit of the...
Yeah.
I didn't have an end to that sentence, so I just,
But yeah, so just for reference, there's a single tear rolling down my cheek right now. Stuart has tapped me deep, so to speak. What am I worried that people find hypocritical? I think it's that I fear behaving in such a way that when I see it in other people, I go, ugh.
Right.
And sometimes I've gone home at the end of a night or a thing or whatever, a meeting, and gone, oh God, I did that thing and it was really ugly, and I
such as
talked about myself for an hour. There's an irony.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, let me tell you about my new project, Stuart.
Well,
oh my God, that's exactly what we're doing. Oh my God, existential crisis.
I'm interested in people's projects.
Yeah.
Perhaps that's why I've set up a podcast to record people talking about their projects. So,
it's difficult, isn't it? Because on the one hand, you're really excited about, and you believe in, and you've dedicated like X amount of time to something that you give a million shits about, and you love, and you want to share with the world. On the other hand, there's a sort of, maybe it's like a culture clash between like wanting to share this awesome thing and also I'm British and I can't wave a flag about it. The only flag that I can wave is the Union flag. Yeah, and maybe it's that. Maybe it's sort of not wanting to be boastful. Yeah.
I mean, I think as ever, it depends on your audience to a certain extent, because I have a 3-line rule that if someone outside of improv asks me how improv is going,
right,
about 3 lines, that's probably about as much as they're interested in. They just want the headlines, really. They don't want like, oh, then I did this, and then they did that, and then...
So you don't say to them, oh, well, I've been really working on kind of game theory and how I...
Yeah,
they go, oh, yeah, the game, I read that one.
Yeah. Have you read the game?
No, but I know enough about it to want to vomit.
Yeah, it's so weird because I find dating to be a strange and it's like I can be friends with people. Yeah. I'm pretty good at that. Not saying I'm the best, but overall, pretty good at that. I understand that. And then dating comes along, and I'm like, well, actually, having a book that explained it would be helpful. But the game, I didn't read all of it. But I was like, this does not contain the answers I'm looking for.
there might be more to the game than I know, but from what I know of it, which is to word of mouth, I don't really want to go near. Although I must say, Stu, you're looking very attractive. Although you could look better.
Oh,
that's,
yes.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Yeah.
No, so now you've negged me.
Yeah.
Here's
my number, but you can't have it yet.
No, you see, the thing is, these are some of the best offers I've had in a very long time, so I'm really reconsidering some of my options. So we were talking about you being a hypocrite, or rather you not wishing to be perceived as being a hypocrite.
Yeah.
And then there's the ego. And does your ego get out of hand? Or do you worry that people think your ego is getting out of hand?
That's what I worry.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know as it is out of hand. I don't know as if I've ever had cause to really check myself and say, oh my word, that was a ridiculous thing that you just said to that person. But that's one of the governing fears of my life, is that people will think, oh my God, that guy just goes on about himself. That guy just sits in a theatre building on an afternoon and talks about himself to a man who's willing to listen, and tens of people listening.
It's quality, not quantity.
Yeah,
I should remember that. The way I sort of look at that is, if I'm worrying about doing that, then that's probably a good sign, because the people who aren't worrying about it are much more likely to do it and not notice it.
So, I think if you're self-aware enough about yourself, then I think you're probably all right. Yeah. I think I'm probably all right.
You're probably all right.
Don't know.
Yeah,
I can't tell.
You're probably all right.
Okay.
Yeah, you're probably all right. That's the Improv London seal of approval. You're probably all right.
I'll have that. Yeah.
You're probably all right. 3 stars.
Oh, what? But it read like a 4, listeners. It read like a 4. I was going to ask for that for my next editor poster.
Cool. So you're also interested in kind of the tech side of things.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We've got a half.
He says leaning around, so he's off mic.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I was looking around the room at our theatre to point with my imagination at things. Yes, so we've got a nice little setup in here, which is great, and we can start to create shows that kind of lean more into the sort of theatre. Yeah. So I've had this thought for a while, and I don't think I'm the only person. I'm certainly not the only person. And I know Chris, hashtag Chris Mead, is his own hashtag.
Is that what we're doing?
That?
Is that how hashtags work? Yeah. We say hashtag Chris Mead, and then it turns up on the internet with a higher SEO ranking.
Yeah, he'd love that.
Well, it will do when I get around to getting these transcribed.
Yeah, you do the tags.
Oh, yeah. No, but I'd love to get it. We'll save this for afterwards. But I think it would be a good idea to get this transcribed. Hashtag transcribed.
Yeah. So, we've had conversations here tonight about sort of. Here's the thing. I think, wouldn't it be amazing if somebody sitting in their apartment in Chicago had just done a bunch of improv courses, and they said, you know what? I have no idea how they speak in Chicago. I want to take a class in London style improv.
Yeah.
Or improv. And then they jump on a plane and they come over here and they do 6 weeks of coming around to all of our and I don't know what that will be, and I think we're definitely in the beginning stages of finding that. But I had one thought, which is that Britain has got possibly the strongest and most sort of historic tradition of groundbreaking theatre. right? You'd find it very difficult any night of the week not to find something incredible that would change the way you thought about yourself or the world in London, I guess in the UK in general. So why, as British improvisers, or as improvisers in London, I should say, are we not leaning on that a little bit? Why bringing some of the kind of theatre in? And that's a sort of roundabout way of saying, like, well, one of the things we can start doing is playing with like mise en scène, like, you know, things like the semiotics of theatre, lighting, sound design, music, live music, I should say, which is done a bunch in improv to an extent, and there are lots of groups who are now playing with that. But I'd like to see even more of that being done. Part of this restriction is that there hasn't until now existed many spaces for allowing for that. The Hoopla has a great setup. We've got a great setup. The FA Room has got a great setup as well. So let's start to play with that and create shows where the technical improviser is as much a scene partner as the people on stage. I mean, you'll see it if you go to watch the best improv shows that we have, which Showstopper and Ostentatious. John Monkhouse and Damien, respectively, are both fantastic at what they do, and they are an equal part of what is happening. I mean, I can speak more to Ostentatious because I sort of know them a little bit better, but yeah, I know that they see John as an equal part of what's happening on stage, and they have a long-standing relationship, and he will make offers, and they're taken up on, you know. So that's sort of my feelings. Like, let's pull more of the theatrical side into it as well. I think there's other elements of sort of the London or British theatre scene that can be looked at and can start to find their ways into improvisation theatre as well. But that's the one that I'm interested in because I like pressing buttons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm fantastically excited, and you know, I don't think either of us are saying for 1 minute all improv should just be one way.
Oh, absolutely not.
But yeah, the magic of bringing the magic of theatre. Music can just lift a scene. You know, can bring emotions. It can contain offers. You know, I just think there's so much potential there, and just some gentle lights or something like that.
Yeah,
I find that really exciting.
I do as well. And here's the thing: it's like, wouldn't it be great to get to a point where improvisers are thinking not just about, you know, how their show works narratively or how it works structurally or how they work together in whatever way, but they start to think about how can we affect the audience in what we're doing as well. How can we give the audience something more than what is present on stage? How can we get to a point where they're leaving the room or leaving the theatre and they're talking about the show that they've just seen as if they've just walked off of the RSC or they've just walked out of the National Theatre. I'm not for a minute saying, you know, it should stop being funny because, as we previously discussed, I am terrible at making terrible jokes. But that, I don't think it's a pipe dream. I think we're really, really close. I think Sonder, which was here at the nursery, which Chris put together with Sally and Emily, those guys, was wonderful. And I've had a bunch of projects in the pipeline for a while that have been waiting to have a theatre space in order to do them. So I'm sort of throwing everything at the next two big projects that I'm going to do here at the nursery, with the hope that somebody will go, well, that was a bit too much for me, but I loved the fact that that they used like a little standard lamp on a table in the opposite side of the theatre to the stage for one scene, for example. Smoke machines are a thing.
Oh, I love smoke machines.
Yeah.
I really want my own smoke machine because Tom Bacon always takes the key home. One day he'll forget, and then he'll come back and the stage will still be filled full of smoke, even though it'll be like days after I've used it.
Yeah, mate, you should see my wish list for the improvised Twin Peaks show. It's just a long list of ridiculous amounts of things that I've fantasized about. So the other day I went and I called a sort of film industry, like a film special effects prop department, just to see you can get. Do you know about squibs? Do you know what they are? You know when in movies people explode with blood, like they've just been shot. So they have little squibs, like it's a little pack of blood, and it's connected to a little kind of motor that sits in their pocket or something like that. But now they have ones where they're so safe that it's operated by air. It's like a little pneumatic air.
Wow!
Rather than being an actual explosion, so they're safe to use without. Well, basically. They're so safe to use that even an improviser could use them. So I definitely I'm in an arguing about whether there's space in the budget for fake blood explosions, and if there's a cause to have them. And surely doesn't every member of my cast now have to be rigged with blood packs because we don't know
who's going to be shot,
or if anyone will be shot?
Yeah, let's talk about The Owls Are Not What They Seem.
Yes.
Improvised Twin Peaks, part of the Nursery Originals series.
Yeah.
What was the... I was going to ask what was the inspiration, but I feel that's rather walking into a trap.
Well, I feel that David Lynch has taken a lot from my work.
No, you're taking it back.
Yeah.
Why Twin Peaks?
Why Twin Peaks? I think... the quote is often bandied around all the time when they say, it set the standard for what television could do. It changed what kind of serial television storytelling was when it came out. That it still continues with the new season that's just finished. It still continues to kind of dazzle and confuse and break new ground in storytelling. And so there's part of the effect that it had on the audience, which I'd love to sort of see previous conversation in sort of with improvisation. And there's also the kind of, for me, there's an overt, you might say it's cinematic, but I'm going to call it the theatrics of it all, that lends itself quite well to improvisation. Even though I do know for a fact that David Lynch hates people improvising in a few interviews and essays. But the plan is that the show exists within the world of Twin Peaks. It's not, episode 14. Maybe it's happened between seasons, but it's definitely set in the kind of 80s or early 90s. But just not really featuring any of the characters from the show, but there might be a few here and there, some of the sort of favourite characters. Why specifically Twin Peaks? I think I had a recurring nightmare for years and years and years between the age of about sort of 7 and 28, where do you remember the scene? And this might even be from Fire Walk with Me, where Audra, who's my co-director, I should say, she is the brains behind all the David Lynch stuff.
Right.
So she will maybe listen back to this and go, "You imbecile!" It was Lily episode. But it's a scene where Bob is coming through Laura Palmer's window, or is sort of coming through the curtains. And I was far too young to be watching it right, at the time. I don't think my parents knew what I was getting up to. And it absolutely scared the bejesus out of me. I had nightmares about Bob for years and years and years. And I think I'd sort of forgotten about it, and I thought, well, what's the most lasting impact a piece of television or a piece of theatre or a piece of cinema has had on me? It's like, oh yeah, there was that thing there. And I thought, well, it sort of seems right to kind of come back to that, see if we can... Well, this is sort of what I was harking back a minute ago, like, how can you affect the audience? Well, that really affected me. How can we create a piece of theatre, improvised theatre, which is as disturbing as it is entertaining? So it's... It's loosely going to be kind of a long form narrative piece. But, I mean, as with the show, sort of cognitive dissonance plays a big role in it. I think I wouldn't go so far as to saying some scenes are just there because. But, yeah, we're definitely... we're not absolutely beholden to the show, which will allow for some fun surprises and some creepy things to happen.
So, what stage are we at in the process for this?
Tonight is the second rehearsal.
Oh, wow.
And the first rehearsal was last week, and the cast I've got is incredible. And we did a few sort of exercises towards the end of the session, which veered into, I think the show is going to look a little bit like this if we play this game.
Yeah.
And and it's absolutely remarkable what the cast are doing. Yes, beyond my wildest dreams, they are incredible, and I consider myself genuinely really, really fortunate to be working with them. So it's that's also incredible and exciting, having really, really seasoned and amazing players. But also, one of the great things about Nursery Originals is that we are obliged to also cast outside of our friendship group, let's say, or people that we know. So Audra and I advertised it publicly, and we had loads of auditions. We had a huge audition, and I think 40% of the cast are people that have never been to the nursery before.
Wow.
Had heard of Hoopla.
Right.
They are fantastic, and it's a joy to have them in it, and I hope that they stick around in the scene for a long, long, long time to come. So, yeah, they're wonderful.
So whereabouts were you advertising it?
Casting Call Pro, or Mandy as it's now called. So that's a kind of acting messaging board and spotlight, and I put it on lots of sort of actor Facebook groups as well, things like that, as well as it being advertised on the nursery website, and it went out to sort of improvisers. We had people via the nursery website as well who I didn't know, which was excellent. I think there was about 28 people in the audition room, and there were like 4 or 5 that I'd invited.
Cool.
Yeah.
How much Twin Peaks is it? How much Twin Peaks is going to be in the show? I.e.,
right.
So I'm sort of thinking from the cast. How many of them have Audra perceptions and knowledge of the show, and how? Yeah,
well, so Audra has the encyclopedic David Lynch knowledge, which is incredible. I just want to play in wacky, crazy worlds and make theatrical, experimental things. And Audra's sort of there as my co-director to say, "Oh, that's not really David Lynch," or whatever it is.
Yeah.
How close to the show will it be? I think it will. I hope it will feel like an episode that never aired, and it's that one episode where you're like, do you remember the episode where it didn't have any of the regular cast in it?
Yeah.
But it was really, really great and interesting as well. I think it would be that. It will feel like, or I hope it will feel like you are inside the world a little bit as well. We're going to do something quite special with the set design. Hashtag, there's a set design.
Right.
That's not a hashtag that you can have, is it? No, yeah. So there'll be a full set design, and it's sort of probably, as I hinted towards before, going to be semi-immersive in that we'll use the stage, of course, but we'll use probably corners of the room. And if people go home going, "Oh yeah, that was fun, but my neck really hurts," I think David Lynch will be happy with your pain. I think he'll be happy that you are in pain whilst watching this and confused. I think that's as close as it'll be. I think we would possibly be doing the audience a disservice or not giving them part of what they're coming for if we didn't at least have like the odd log lady or Andy, or the sort of favourite kind of B characters. Yeah, but I probably shouldn't give away all of the details as much as I want to. Yeah. I'll show you the set design off. I was about to say off camera, off microphone, later. But everybody else will have to wait and see at the preview in a couple of weeks, and then when we start the full 4-week run in November.
Cool, excellent. You mentioned you have 2 projects coming up. Can you talk about the second project?
Oh, the one after? Oh, this has been talked about before in your podcast. This is a project called Wired, which is a sort of a series of workshops, of free workshops on technician skills for improvisation. But it's sort of so we had one workshop in July. And we'll do another few before the end of this year if we have time. But the idea is that they'll always sort of be free, and we'll try to bring in people that have sort of they've gone, I might quite like to, like I was saying, I might quite like to play with the lights at the nursery or at Hoopla or whatever. How would I go? I wouldn't even know where to start. How do I colour mix? Where do I plug my phone in to play music? Like everything from that all the way up to okay, so if I asked to come in a couple of hours early, how could I go on a lighting desk and program some presets so that I had 5 to 10 things that I knew that I could kind of queue up and go between that were kind of interesting and contrasting or whatever. Yeah, so it's one part of this sort of workshop program, and another part a kind of show format that John Monkhouse and I did a lot of work on way back when, and then there's sort of been a huge in-between time where the nursery didn't have a theatre space to do anything about that. Yeah. So early next year, that will kind of kick off again properly, and it will... the idea behind that is sort of, again, pushing the sort of envelope a little bit with what's possible with kind of light and sound design and live music within improvisation, and seeing whether, just for fun, just as a curious experiment, whether we can, we talked about before having sort of the lighting technician being a performing partner that's equal to the people on the stage, as opposed to just calling the edit points or something like that. But what if we put that in the foreground? What if we put the technicians on the stage with the improvisers with very long extension leads, and it felt like Daft Punk was there. Right. It's like Daft Punk meets improv. There's smoke machines, there's lasers, there's colours, there's stuff like that. And what worlds can they create on the stage that the improvisers can then inhabit, and how will that affect how they play together? I have no answers to those questions, because we'll see. Yeah, but it's a sort of a bit of an experiment, and hopefully we'll have a little run of that and do a few of those next year, and then look at sort of the sort of idea with it that it's sort of more of an experimental theatre project that uses improvisation, and that it would be nice to sort of try and put it on at the Battersea Arts Centre or something like that. Well, which, now that we have had 2 improv shows, this is the news of the week right now, is that Ostentatious is now heading into the West End following Showstopper, which is incredible. Yes. The West End. Yes. That's incredible. The Battersea Arts Centre as well is an amazing venue that supports really creative and interesting projects. So it'd be nice to do something there. Cool. That sounds great. Another project that you're involved in is the Bumper Blyton. Oh, yeah. So is it Bumper Blyton Improv Adventure? No. Bumper Blyton. Well, I've sort of changed the name to make it even more confusing. Okay. Yeah. Bumper Blyton. The Improvised Adventure. Ah, right. Cool. Yes. That's great, actually. We've just come back from Edinburgh with that show. We did the whole month. It's been around for a little while. Again, it's just a project that we rested and then brought back again. And it's got a fantastic cast. Our casting pool was quite large this time, so we've got about 12 people in the crew overall, and the usual kind of 5 or 6 per show. And the sort of second we landed and got back, Steve Rowe Shout out Steve Rowe, oop oop. Said, hey, would you like a monthly residency at Hoopla? So starting next month, we're going to be at Hoopla until June or May, June next year, which is amazing. And we also have a monthly residency now that I can announce. This is news to everybody because I just signed a contract today. We also have a monthly residency at the Canal Cafe Theatre, which is great. And they've been really, really supportive and lovely. And so that's exciting to put our show in there, and a few regional tour dates that'll confirm.
Lovely.
Yes, it's a super fun show. It's if people haven't seen it or haven't heard of it, that's fine. I fully expect lots of people not to have. It's so Enid Blyton was probably the most prolific. No, wait, she is the most prolific children's author. She wrote. Oh, I did know this number. 762 books, I think. I mean, Wikipedia can correct me, but it's definitely it's 700 and something books in her lifetime. And as I like to say at the beginning of every show, for very complicated legal reasons, this is not one of them. So she wrote these children's books like The Famous Five, The Secret Seven, Mallory Towers, and so on and so on. And for people of a certain age, they are as much as part of their childhood as their actual childhood. Yeah. So it's great to play in that world. It's super fun, and it's kind of 1940s romp, and it's nice to sort of send up the values of the time, or particularly Enid Blyton's kind of very moralistic and conservative values against our own. It's nice. And this year we introduced the element of having songs in the show as well. It's super fun as well.
Cool. That sounds great. Okay, so the last sort of big question.
Yeah.
What would your advice be for creating a successful show?
Oh, right. Well, I can tell you that I've always cheated a little bit by... so I've been part of sort of a toddler's handful. I was going to say a small handful of kind of marginally successful shows, particularly at the fringe festivals anyway. But by and large, they've all been a sort of... genre shows or an improvised version of X property that I know that already exists. And I'm not saying do that. Please don't do that. That's my thing. Don't do that. But I think finding for a sort of a non-improvisers audience, because the sort of the audience for these shows are generally not improvisers. We've found. So we're really excited about playing at Hoopla and hopefully gaining that audience as well. Is finding a way of hooking in an audience who haven't seen improvisation and or have negative connotations about what improv is likely to be.
Right.
Forever on the Royal Mile, which is the main street in Edinburgh where most people would paper flyer you, you'll hear some poor sod in a university improv troupe saying, "Come to my funny improv show," and then somebody will smugly say, "I don't like improv," and I think everybody said this, but that's a little bit like saying, I don't like. Come and see my art installation. I don't like art.
Yes.
I've seen Van Gogh and I've decided that I don't like all art. Which is a bit daft. But so I think that people need to be tricked a little bit into coming into an improv show. I think finding the hook that will make people feel that this is safe and this is going to be quality and this is this is going to be sort of worth my time, and then kind of showing them what improv can do.
Yes.
In Upstairs Downton, which is a show that I was a part of for 4 or 5 years, we played at the Fringe for a while as well. We had a lot of fun with halfway through the show. It kind of turned into a short form show.
Right.
and we'd do things like lines from a hat and get the audience shouting crap at us, and we'd have to, as Lord Grantham or whatever, or the Dowager Countess, make that make sense in the 1920s, 1930s world. And so I think, things like that where you can kind of show what improv is, almost like showing your workings to the audience and saying, hey, did you enjoy this show? Did you realise that it was all entirely made up? If you do a great job, though, the best thing you can ever hope for is that people come out and going, well, I really liked the set pieces, but the improv pieces weren't so good. What they're really saying is like, I liked some scenes and some scenes I didn't like, but that's how the improv works, isn't it? Some of the scenes won't be good.
Yes, that is the nature of the art.
But I'm the sort of person that takes on a ridiculous amount of things because I get too excited and I want to do all of them now for fear that I don't know why I just want to do it all now. So I'm also starting an improvised cartoon series.
Wow!
So I've been teaching myself animation, so that will it'll probably be me and a guest, much like this, and I'll have you on if you'd like to be on it.
Lovely, thank you very much.
And we do a scene, and then we create the cartoon kind of in post,
cool.
Sort of sync up the dialogue with the sort of scene. So not dissimilar to Creature Comforts, the old sort of Aardman animation, but with improv. So I figured that's a fun thing that I haven't seen very much of.
No,
you can make pretty easily and bung on YouTube, and I have got no like endpoint reason for doing any of these things other than, wouldn't it be fun if that existed?
Yeah.
Oh, does it exist? Google. No. I guess I'll have to make it. I feel like that in my teaching as well. When I teach, often I'm incredibly... this is about to sound egotistical, isn't it? I'm incredibly envious of the people that get to do the concept jam here, or people that get to do certain games when I'm teaching, because I really want to do that myself. Can't somebody make me do that? I want to put a balloon up my jumper or whatever it is. That's probably my improviser's bane as well. Just saying yes to too many things, isn't it? Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much,
That was really good.
Cool.
I made this.
That's improv!